actor who really brought, realness to television.
At age 56, Ice Cube, rapper, actor, and symbol of black cultural resistance, has done what no one else dared. He spoke out about the mysterious death of Malcolm Jamal Warner, a shock, a recording, a piece of footage they tried to hide. Once America's TV darling as Theo Huxtable, Malcolm died in silence in Costa Rica. No autopsy, no farewell, no justice. Behind the drowning accident cover lies chilling clues, a deleted podcast, a missing computer, and a memoir that never got written. Now Ice Cube declares, "I have proof they don't want you to see." So who silenced Malcolm and why? Let's uncover the story Hollywood never wanted you to hear. A career, a conviction, a fateful decision. Malcolm wasn't just in Hollywood. He grew up in it. When Ice Cube raised questions about his death, it wasn't just about one man, it was about an entire system that had swallowed countless talents in silence. To understand why the name Malcolm caused such a stir, we need to go back to when all of America loved him through a television screen, never suspecting that behind that smile was a man carrying one of the most dangerous secrets in American television history. Malcolm rose to stardom as a teenager. Born in 1970 in Jersey City, New Jersey, he was named after Malcolm X. From a young age, Warner showed traits of a deep actor, not just in speech, but in his eyes and maturity far beyond his years. At 14, he was cast as Theo Huxtable, the smart, rebellious, charming son in The Cosby Show from 1984 to 1992. This series wasn't just a TV staple, it was a cultural icon, seen as a positive image of Black America. At the center was Malcolm. At its peak, the show drew over 30 million viewers per episode. Warner became one of the most beloved young stars in America, earning 3 Emmy nominations and countless awards. But what most people never realized was that even at the peak of his fame, Malcolm was already questioning the machine pulling the strings. He didn't just play roles, he watched, he listened, he documented, and he kept those receipts close to his chest. After The Cosby Show wrapped, Warner didn't chase clout like so many others. He turned down commercial films, refusing to be boxed into lazy stereotypes that Hollywood tried to feed him. Instead, he poured himself into indie projects, raw documentaries, intimate spoken word, and powerful talks about mental health and Black culture. Malcolm once declared, "I don't need to be famous to be respected. I need to be real so I can sleep at night." That mindset put him on a dangerous path, one that wasn't about fame, but about peeling back the glossy cover of his own career. By 2022, insiders say Malcolm was secretly working with journalists, lawyers, and tech experts on 2 explosive projects, a memoir and a documentary bluntly titled Hiding in Plain View. According to a close assistant, the memoir draft had already crossed 300 pages, packed with private emails, industry documents, testimonies, and sharp analysis of how Hollywood had bent and twisted the image of Black America for decades. What made his work truly threatening? Malcolm didn't just go after the system, he called out names. And topping that list was none other than Bill Cosby himself.
Actor who really brought, realness to television, playing a great character, playing a great son on The Cosby Show.
According to Malcolm, Cosby wasn't only America's TV dad, he was also a gatekeeper, someone who opened the door for Black talent but made sure they never stepped outside the box the industry built for them. In one leaked note, Malcolm wrote, "He taught us how to speak so we'd be accepted, how to dress so we didn't seem dangerous, how to move in ways that made people comfortable, but he never taught us how to fight back." No one knows the exact moment, but it's clear Cosby eventually caught wind of what Malcolm was building. By late 2023, those close to him noticed the freeze. Roles vanished overnight, sponsors backed away, and trusted friends whispered that someone doesn't want you talking. But Malcolm refused to fold. With nothing more than a handheld recorder, a modest camera, and an encrypted cloud, he kept documenting everything. In one unreleased podcast, Malcolm made it clear, "I'm not telling this story for revenge. I'm telling it because I don't want anyone else to stay silent like I once did." Today, those words cut sharper than ever. His wife, whose identity has always remained hidden, is believed to be the only person holding full access to his secret archive. A technical collaborator later revealed that Malcolm created 2 separate passwords, one unlocking the memoir, the other the documentary. He left chilling instructions. "If I'm gone, make sure my voice lives on." Cold, like a will written in code, that line has become a guiding light for those still fighting to protect his work. Malcolm wasn't the kind of hero who marched on stages or went live to blast enemies. He was dangerous in a quieter way, writing, recording, piecing together memories with an almost surgical clarity. That's what terrified the system. He was the man who knew too much, remembered too well, and refused to let silence bury the truth. Now, with Ice Cube stepping forward, declaring he holds evidence, Malcolm's silencing no longer looks random. It starts to click like the last fragments of a buried puzzle. His death may have been staged as an accident, but his transformation from America's Theo Huxtable into the man bold enough to call out Hollywood stands as one of the strongest indictments of the industry's dark machine.
But certain dots, like when I see that they put every black man in the movies in a dress at some point in their career, I'll be connecting them down like, wow, all these brothers gotta wear a dress.
No one can say exactly when the shift happened, but at some point, Malcolm Jamal Warner began to change, and everyone close to him felt it. There were no press releases, no bold announcements, just a slow unraveling. The once warm, funny man who mingled at community events now carried a shadow of fear he couldn't shake. Malcolm had always been private, but this was different. He still showed up at mental health seminars, still blogged, still ran his personal podcast, until suddenly he canceled everything. In the last 3 months of his life, Malcolm cut off all public appearances. He stopped joining live panels, ignored calls from industry friends, and those who did catch a glimpse swore they saw something haunting. Tense eyes, a forced smile, and a glance that never stopped scanning the room behind him. At first, his wife thought it was exhaustion. Malcolm was a perfectionist, juggling a memoir and an independent documentary he'd been secretly filming since 2022. Stress seemed natural, but it went further than that. Out of nowhere, he switched gyms, abandoning the one he'd used for 5 years. He quit ride-hailing apps, choosing instead to pay strangers in cash for private rides. And his phone, once packed with notes and schedules, was stripped down to calls only, no texting, no trail. A longtime TV director who once worked with Malcolm on a Netflix project remembered a chilling moment. The last time I saw him, I lifted my phone to snap a selfie and he slapped it down. He told me, "Don't take a photo. I don't want to be checked in anywhere." I thought he was joking, but he wasn't. After his death, his wife, who has never shown her face publicly, confirmed the truth. Malcolm sincerely believed someone was watching him. She revealed how Malcolm became obsessed with security, checking the cameras around their home again and again, installing anti-surveillance software on every device, even warning her not to leave the house alone at night. Some nights he stayed awake until dawn, not because he couldn't sleep, but because he refused to let his guard down. In a handwritten journal found after his death, one line was scribbled over and over like a ritual. "If they come, leave behind the voice." As the fear grew, his world shrank. He canceled a keynote at Morehouse College, rejected a CNN invitation to reflect on his role in The Cosby Show, and suspended his podcast for almost 2 months, something that had never happened in 3 years of steady publishing. Friends said it was like watching a man slowly disappear. Then 4 days before his sudden death in Costa Rica, a brand new episode mysteriously dropped on his podcast feed. The title? When They Won't Let You Speak. No intro, no music, just Malcolm's voice. Hoarse, heavy, carrying the weight of secrets too dangerous to name. For 27 minutes, he didn't point fingers, but the implications dripped through every word. He spoke of the system, of broken trust, of the crushing exhaustion of living for everyone else's expectations. At one point, he said, "There comes a point when silence becomes more dangerous than speaking up. I've been there." The quote spread online before the entire episode vanished, scrubbed less than 12 hours after release. Listeners who caught it swore Malcolm's words hinted at betrayals in high places. He described a mentor reduced to a shadow of handshakes in the dark and a world where survival meant obeying rules written by invisible hands. And the strangest part, to this day, nobody knows who pulled that episode down. The channel still exists, the earlier episodes still play, but When They Won't Let You Speak vanished without a trace from every platform. No explanation, no follow-up posts, no emails, just silence. And then, Malcolm himself disappeared. The trip to Costa Rica was first painted as a quiet getaway, but insiders insist something was off. He didn't bring his camera, his laptop, or any of his usual recording tools. Only a few sets of clothes and a single notebook. That was the last time the world saw him alive. After his passing, his wife and mother revealed truths they had once buried out of fear of being dismissed as paranoid. Malcolm had long believed someone was monitoring his emails, and he even tried setting up anonymous internet accounts to dodge surveillance. His mother, Pamela, later confessed, "I thought he was being overly anxious. Now I wish I had believed him sooner." Friends remembered another chilling detail. In those final weeks, Malcolm repeated the same phrase like a broken record. If something happens, don't let them tell the story for me. But he never got the chance to finish telling it himself. The erased podcast, the warnings brushed off, the paranoid behaviors, now they read like desperate breadcrumbs from a man racing against time. Malcolm was once a beloved role model, then a skeptic of the very role he embodied. And in his last quiet steps, he wasn't just rejecting a false spotlight, he was walking straight into a danger zone few ever return from. A place where truth is poison and silence becomes the only currency. Then came the ending no one could make sense of. A strange death, a rushed cremation, missing personal assets, media silence. On June 3rd, 2025, headlines coldly declared Malcolm Jamal Warner drowned while swimming off Playa Grande, Costa Rica. His death reduced to a single sterile statement from local authorities. No photos of the scene, no witnesses identified, and most shocking of all, no official investigation for a man who was once one of America's most beloved TV stars. The handling of Malcolm's death wasn't just sloppy, it was lightning fast and unnervingly secretive. His wife and mother were informed only after the body had already been shipped to the forensic center in San Jose. And then came the move that rattled even seasoned professionals. Less than 24 hours after being found, Malcolm was cremated. No public autopsy, no written consent from his family. His mother, Pamela Warner, told independent media in disbelief, "We didn't sign anything." They said he wanted to be cremated, but no one in the family ever heard Malcolm say that. The speed alone set off alarm bells. In sudden deaths, especially when a celebrity is involved, international protocol demands a very different process. Autopsy reports, DNA preservation, independent verification, and time for challenges before a body is buried or cremated. Yet in Malcolm's case, every single step was skipped at breakneck pace. When his ashes were quietly brought back to Los Angeles, his family wasn't even thinking about a funeral. They were desperate for answers. They wanted what truly mattered, Malcolm's belongings. His laptop, his phone, his hard drives, his notebooks, and above all, the memoir manuscript he had poured 2 years of his life into. But when the family went looking, everything was gone. Malcolm's wife revealed that officials in Costa Rica claimed no electronic devices were found in his hotel room. Nothing. The space was stripped bare. No camera, no laptop, no audio recorder. The very tools Malcolm never traveled without. A technician who once worked with him on editing said bluntly, "That man always had his gear, always." Even more chilling, his phone, the one thing he treated like an extension of himself, was missing too. And just 2 days after his death, his work email account mysteriously locked. When his wife tried to log in, she was hit with a message. Account disabled for security reasons by user request or legal representative. But Malcolm never appointed any legal rep, and no relative has ever been able to unlock it since. Then came the knockout blow. Every cloud backup linked to his project suddenly went dark. An insider who had helped Malcolm with encryption swore there were at least 2 versions, password protected, stored on military-grade servers. "There's no reason both would vanish at the exact same time," he said. He even shared that just 2 days before Malcolm left for Costa Rica, he received an email promising the final edited version that week, but it never came. Mainstream media barely blinked. No deep dive reports, no primetime specials, no glossy memorial tributes for a man who had once been a household name across America. His death appeared only as a tiny blurb, tucked away, overshadowed by filler stories that nobody would remember the next day. Even stranger, none of his Cosby Show castmates spoke publicly. No heartfelt posts, no interviews, not even a passing "rest in peace." Directors who had worked with him stayed quiet too. And Bill Cosby, the man who played Malcolm's TV father for nearly a decade, said absolutely nothing. No tribute, no statement, no acknowledgement at all. According to Ice Cube, that silence spoke volumes. In a podcast later scrubbed from the internet, Cube declared, "A man who once called someone his son at the very least should have posted a black and white photo with the words 'rest in peace.'" He said nothing, not a word, not even a period. To me, that's a confession. Public questions erupted. Fans who had followed Malcolm's podcast knew he had been preparing 2 bombshell projects, a memoir and a documentary. Now, not only was he gone, but every trace of those projects had been wiped out, with not a single explanation offered. That vacuum pushed smaller platforms to dig where mainstream media refused. Independent blogs, investigative YouTube creators, and even a few overseas outlets started chasing the story. Some released alleged audio clips Malcolm had sent to close friends and family. In them, His warning was chillingly clear. If something happens to me, don't let them turn it into an accident. But almost as soon as these videos surfaced, they were struck down. Copyright claims, spam reports, takedown notices, whole channels wiped clean within hours. Still, the hashtags started climbing. Hashtag justice for Malcolm. Hashtag where is the footage? Hashtag Ice Cube knows. Millions of shares spread across social platforms, yet from law enforcement, nothing. From Hollywood, silence. Malcolm's death was treated like a passing breeze when in truth it was a storm, a cultural icon of Black America, erased on a distant shoreline while the world looked away. Or maybe, more precisely, the world was forced to look away. Because when the last voice is muted, when podcasts vanish and archives are scrubbed, the truth doesn't sit in what's revealed, it hides in what has been erased. And Malcolm knew that better than anyone. He never went on air to publicly accuse names, but he left behind proof, a 300-page memoir, hours of audio recordings, a documentary project bluntly titled Hiding in Plain View. Each piece crafted not as nostalgia, but as an indictment of the power structure behind Black Hollywood. What made his revelation so deadly was the simplicity. None of it was hidden. It was all right there in plain sight. The memoir wasn't a scrapbook of sitcom memories, it was a raw expose. How contracts were bent, how images were manipulated, how Black performers were trained to act, dress, and move if they wanted to survive. At first, it was just about documenting memories. But the deeper Malcolm wrote, the more he uncovered a network too powerful to ignore. He spoke with over 20 witnesses, actors, stagehands, crew members, all exposing how influence was weaponized to silence, blacklist, and erase those who dared to resist. His manuscript wasn't just a book, it was a blueprint of the machine. He split it into 3 parts. The first, a raw diary charting his complicated bond with Bill Cosby, from mentor to manipulator, from protector to controller. The second, a paper trail of CEOs, producers, and PR fixers, emails, contracts, receipts that showed how power was bought and sold. And the third, the most explosive, his own descent into blacklisting. Missed calls that turned into missed opportunities, roles that vanished, projects where his name was scrubbed as if he'd never existed. One chilling line he once told his wife before his death now echoes like a curse: "If I die, don't believe it was an accident." She dismissed it at the time as work stress. Now it feels like a prophecy. Alongside the memoir, Malcolm labored alone on a documentary. No crew, no producers, just him, a camera, and silenced artists willing to speak from parked cars, dingy cafes, and cheap rental studios. He broke the project into segments, encrypting them, storing them with 2 separate passwords divided between trusted allies. His plan, if he fell, the truth would still crawl out. After his death, a technical collaborator admitted that an incomplete backup was discovered, buried on a hard drive inside a locked metal box at a forgotten studio in Burbank. That studio is now sealed under a digital asset audit. Meanwhile, the handwritten manuscript once hidden in a safe at his home was quietly confiscated. No paperwork, no warrant, no official explanation. Ice Cube once warned in a private conversation, later deleted from the internet, if that footage ever gets out, if what Malcolm wrote is recovered, it won't just be a scandal. It'll collapse the entire system Hollywood uses to control Black artists. And maybe that's exactly what someone tried to prevent. But as Malcolm himself once wrote, the truth doesn't need to run. It just waits for the right eyes. The real question now is, are we ready to see it? When everyone else stayed silent, Ice Cube broke ranks. Not through a red carpet press conference or a polished statement, but with a grainy 9-minute video, no edits, no filter. Just Cube staring into the lens and declaring, "I know what Malcolm told me. I know he was scared, and I know he didn't die naturally." With that, Hollywood's iron silence cracked. Cube isn't just a rapper. He's not only the founder of NWA, the group that weaponized hip-hop against systemic oppression. He's a man who has built a career avoiding scandals, keeping calm, staying clean. But now he had stepped into the fire, becoming the face of a new resistance, a resistance carrying the ghost of Malcolm Jamal Warner. Few realized Cube and Malcolm had shared a decades-long friendship, quiet, private, never flaunted. But according to Cube, they often met in secret, plotting how to speak the truth without being erased by the machine. When Malcolm began drafting his memoir, Cube was one of the first to see it. "He showed me a piece, not long, just a few pages," Cube admitted in a leaked backstage interview. "But I knew if he ever dropped the whole thing, someone would try to bury it." In that same interview, never aired, Cube revealed Malcolm had confided something darker. He felt watched. His phone glitched in ways that screamed surveillance. And every time Cube urged him to be careful, Malcolm's answer was the same. If they come for me, make sure my voice doesn't disappear. Emails Malcolm sent never landed where they should. He described a chilling meeting with a famous director. No script, no production plan, just a soft warning. Maybe you should step back and let things sleep. Cube never dismissed this as paranoia, especially not after Malcolm's sudden death and the trail of irregularities that followed. A body cremated in haste, devices missing, accounts locked overnight. But the real breaking point came when Cube was handed a USB drive by an unnamed associate, someone who had worked with Malcolm on cloud storage. Inside were metadata logs, deleted emails, and login records from unidentified IP addresses, all tied to Malcolm's cloud within 48 hours of his death. Cube revealed that at least 5 unauthorized attempts were made to access 2 key files, hiding in plain view final draft.mp4 and HJW journal part 3.doc. Both vanished permanently after those break-ins. And that wasn't all. The same source slipped Cube a nearly 2-minute audio clip, allegedly ripped from a Zoom call between 3 media advisors deeply connected to Bill Cosby. In the unreleased clip, one voice is heard saying, "We need to handle this before it blows up. That kid can't go any further." Another, lower voice responds, "If needed, I know someone who can take care of it. Quiet, clean. No names were mentioned. No Malcolm, no Cosby." But according to Cube, one of the voices unmistakably matched a senior executive from a company that had spearheaded Cosby's image rehab campaigns after his assault scandals. Cube never put the full recording out. Instead, during an interview with an independent journalist, he played just 11 seconds. The fallout was immediate. By the next day, that journalist's YouTube channel was completely wiped. Every video, every mirror upload, gone as if it had never existed. That's when I knew I had to do this myself, Cube admitted. He built his own squad. Not cops, not corporate investigators, but a rogue alliance of cybersecurity hackers, independent filmmakers, lawyers, and ex-journalists. Their mission was simple but deadly. Reconstruct Malcolm's lost hiding in plain view project and finish the story the industry tried to bury. But the deeper Cube dug, the heavier the pressure grew. Strange cars idled outside his house at night. Every week someone knocked at 3 a.m., leaving a slip of paper with the words, "Some secrets are worth keeping." His emails started bouncing. His social accounts were flagged over and over, yet Cube refused to fold. Instead, he doubled down, launching a documentary of his own, bluntly titled "Rewrite Me If You Dare," a direct challenge, a declaration of war against those who tried to erase Malcolm's legacy. This wasn't heading to Netflix or HBO. Cube vowed to bypass the gatekeepers, releasing it through encrypted underground channels and private community screenings where no corporate censor could interfere. "I don't need Hollywood's approval," he declared. "I need the public to know the truth." At a closed-door event in Atlanta, his voice shook the room. They may have erased his name from the credits. They may have cremated him in silence, but I won't let them rewrite Malcolm. Not while I'm still standing. That defiance lit a fuse. Cube became the heartbeat of the #JusticeForMalcolm movement. Artists who had once stayed quiet began reposting Malcolm's quotes. Indie producers volunteered their studios and skills for Cube's project. What exactly is on the footage Cube guards? He hasn't shown it all, and maybe he doesn't need to, because what he's doing now cuts deeper than any leak. He's dismantling a machine that ruled for decades, using the very weapon the system once owned: storytelling. No stage scandals, no crocodile tears, no red carpets, just truth. Raw, unpolished, and impossible to bury. Malcolm Jamal Warner lived his life in the spotlight, yet he died in the shadows. Now Ice Cube is flipping the light back on, forcing us to stare at what was meant to stay hidden. This isn't just about footage. It's about a warning, a spark that set off a chain reaction the moment Hollywood's silence cracked. When Cube dropped the first audio snippet from "Rewrite Me If You Dare," it didn't just start a debate. It blew open a door Hollywood had bolted shut for nearly a year. Until then, Malcolm's death was treated as a tragic accident, quickly filed away and forgotten. But within 48 hours of the clip flooding forums and independent platforms, a quiet storm began to ripple. The first to break the wall was Reggie Morgan, a documentary filmmaker who had worked with Malcolm in 2022. On a modest YouTube channel, he admitted, "He told me something wasn't right." Malcolm believed he was being watched, not by fans, not by paparazzi, but by the very people who once signed his contracts. The 12-minute video exploded. 2 million views in a single night. Soon after, a female screenwriter who had worked with the company behind The Cosby Show stepped up on a small podcast. "I wasn't surprised when I heard Cube speak," she confessed. "We used to have an internal email group, and one day Malcolm's name just disappeared from the list." No explanation. Almost as if someone tried to erase him from the system itself. Then came the shock. A veteran, Emmy-winning actor suddenly tweeted just 3 words. He was right. No context, no source. But the post went instantly viral before being deleted in less than 3 hours. Too late. Thousands of screenshots were already circulating, proof that this story could no longer be buried. Independent news outlets started connecting the dots. Malcolm's sudden retreat from projects, the mysterious takedown of his When They Won't Let You Speak podcast, Ice Cube quietly visiting Malcolm's home just weeks before the tragedy. What began as whispers had grown into a tidal wave, and that wave was smashing against the walls of an industry that once boasted it was a beacon of light, only to now be exposed for hiding some of its darkest shadows. Hollywood couldn't stay silent anymore, not because it wanted to speak, but because it had lost the power not to. They called Malcolm's death an accident. Cube called it a script stolen from its rightful author. And finally, the rest of Hollywood began asking the questions they should have asked from day one. Malcolm Jamal Warner wasn't just an actor. He was a silenced truth, a buried warning, and a wake-up call for every artist who once believed talent alone could shield them inside the machine. His life was a story. His death became a message. And now, his voice is louder than ever. If this story shakes you, don't stay quiet the way they did. Drop your thoughts in the comments, hit like, share this video, and subscribe so we can keep exposing what they're desperate to hide.